Always held back by the Instagram. So no, don't worry about adjusting your screen. It's not you, it's me. Here we are again, Discover South Florida, coming to you live on Thursday, the 19th of November in this 2025. That's been interesting to say the least, particularly with South Florida for so many reasons. We just don't have that kind of time, Larry. Larry Mastropieri, broker owner of the Mastropieri Group, alongside myself, John Laws of Discover South Florida. And we will begin this evening talking about how South Florida, the surprise of very few, local governments approved millions in incentives for corporate expansions in 2025. Now, these were programs that were helping to attract new headquarters from across the country and around the world. Not like they needed a whole lot of help in light of not having, state income tax and things of that nature. But Larry, what had you seen with this up to this point? I know when we were checking some of the headlines and stuff that have been going on, was there something particular about these incentives that stood out to you?
I think it was just interesting to share with our audience a little bit about how this works, right? Just that was kind of my incentive or my reason for for throwing this topic in the list. Yeah, I felt it was interesting to just kind of see how the governments are working to bring more business down south, right? And I also thought it was interesting the companies that they were recruiting and what cities were, offering these incentives. Obviously, you have Miami making it happen, and they're always probably going to be doing that. That's it's a big area. They got a lot going on. But so they're always probably going to make this list. But there's cities like Boca Raton who are making an effort, much smaller cities, right? And so one of the top ones on the list for 2025 was BioStem Technologies, right?
And we've talked about them a lot. Yeah,
biomedical company, specializing in very specific BioStem Technologies produces innovative perinatal tissue-based allografts. If anybody understands what that is, I actually had to look that up. But it's more of like a stem cell type product, right? Which is interesting. So some cutting edge technology, right? So that's kind of neat. And
it seems like the timing, the timing of it is especially good. I mean, yeah, obviously you always want to have cutting edge technology, businesses in your area, but in light of AI and all the things it brings to the table in terms of furthering developments in record time, this would seem like, this was almost like catching something, not necessarily at the dip, but getting on the wave right at the right time when, we could really see some explosive growth here.
Yeah, I think this just demonstrates these are little deals, if you will. They're not like they're big businesses, but there's a lot of these smaller, maybe under the radar companies that keep moving here, keep being incentivized to move here and strike deals with local municipalities to make it happen. And again, so BioStem, they've basically negotiated $300,000 in incentive. They've moved their headquarters to Boca Raton. That's 100 jobs at $81,000 average salary. That's basically the requirement, right? That's what if they hit that, they get the money, is typically how these things are structured for anybody who's curious. And they also, in order to get this incentive, they also agreed to spend $49.5 million on capital investment. They're probably planning to do that anyway, but this is part of how they pitch themselves to try to get some incentive from local government, right? So it's kind of interesting. 100 jobs coming here at an $81,000 average salary, which is good. And this is kind of what you want coming to the area, right? You want higher wages, more technical careers, relocating that benefits real estate, that benefits local restaurants and businesses, right? And that's one on the list. And then here's another one, which I thought was interesting. Project Janus. And this is a medical device manufacturing company expanding in Miami-Dade under a confidential code name until formally announced. So Project Janus, top secret.
It's a huge Janus.
1.6 million in incentives, 300 medical device manufacturing jobs. So 300 jobs, $67,000 average salary, and they were endorsed by the Beacon Council. So, so that's another one. ServiceNow was a big one.
Yeah.
Right.
We've talked comment about from them. Peter Graffo here. Have you seen any Canadian companies looking to relocate to South Florida? Well, Peter, we're not going to spoil it all for you, but actually we have, and we're going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah. So let's put a pin in that. Cool. Good question, Peter.
Now.
Yeah. $2 million from in incentives for ServiceNow. So big number. 800 plus jobs though. $170,000 average salary. Headquarters.
Which, frankly, you kind of need. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't the market that's necessarily the friendliest for blue collar work. I mean, that's, a whole different conversation, but it is good to see that, these higher wages, white collar type positions are the ones being filled here, because it's hard to live here otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and this is only going to further drive up the demand for this product here. But again, you want, this is what you want, right? You want to entice businesses like this to relocate. They're going to spend $50 million in capital investment. And then you have another code name project called Project Apollo, $3.6 million in cash incentives. And they're building a data center facility in Miami-Dade. 75,000 square foot data center, 27 jobs at $80,000 average salary. They'll spend $150 million on capital improvements for the data center campus. So again, we're leaning tech. And now let's talk finance. Banco, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Santander, $5 million in incentives, 250 jobs, $115,000 average salary, retains 702 existing local jobs as well. So,
and maybe it's just me, but I feel like to a certain extent, not just South Florida, but it seems like Florida in general have been much friendlier towards businesses and trying to attract them. I mean, naturally, you would think any area would want to do that. But when I constantly see that the headlines with all these corporate headquarters that are on paper based in Delaware because of all the, corporate benefits, like moving out one after the other, I'm just kind of like, I wonder how much of that is being benefited by, South Florida and Florida in general. I see so many companies going to Texas for the same reasons. Anyway,
yeah,
just a thought. And
I think South Florida, like, this is good because historically we've been retirement capital of the world, right? Yeah. We've been we've been a vacation spot, right? So we've been more of that than real industry. And this just continues to cement the fact that, hey, more and more real businesses are coming down here. And we feel it too on the real estate side, because we're working with clients and we're like, learning who they are.
Are you seeing a lot of new people moving in? I mean, just younger and younger on the regular?
Without question, younger and younger, and it's changing South Florida. And there's a little bit, we've experienced this, right? There's a little bit of a clash of generation on some level for some of these development projects, like the downtown Boca project. There's different things that we talked about where certain groups of people feel strongly about, like, let's build, let's develop, and others feel like let's retain the old thing that we had here. And so I think there's a little bit of that, but the transition is younger. The transition is more high paying jobs. And that's what we're seeing quite a bit of, for sure. So let's move on to the next topic.
All right. Well, Palm Beach County, to the surprise of no one here, luxury contracts have surged post-Mamdani win. I say no surprise, but following the headlines, depending on who you listen to, it sounded like, I would assume the entire city of New York in the upper class would have moved out, just based on, if you turn on the right channel, that, oh my God, everyone's gone, on and on and on. But now let's get down to the facts of it. And it sounds like there are actually some higher end folks that are on their way out of the Big Apple. Buyers signed 29 contracts between November 10th and November 16th, totaling $235 million in asking dollar volume, which is a significant jump from the previous week's 10 contracts totaling $67.7 million. So, yeah, that is quite a bit. Larry, I know you follow this stuff very closely. Are you still noticing it? Are you getting more New Yorker phone calls?
I think we get more calls from sellers saying that.
asking
they
about.
think they think their house is going to be worth more because of this dynamic than actual buyers calling. I think there's truth to this, but I would also flag, and if you read deeper into this, I'm just curious where the 29 contract buyers originated from, right? So, and if you analyze that, I think you'll find that, maybe there's some in there that are New Yorkers and they're escaping for that reason. And then I think there's others that are just so happened to be a little bit of a coincidence. I don't think it's all coincidence here. Let's put it that way. I just think maybe like the jump of, 235 million from 67 million. There were some big deals that went pending in this thing. For example, we got a Stone Creek property, right, at 47 million. I mean, that's basically the total.
You know who that is, right?
This isn't. I don't think this is Marky Mark.
Oh, that's not Wahlberg's?
No, it's somebody else. So okay. I'm pretty sure it's not Marky Mark. I think we have it on the list down here. Okay. I think it's somebody else for sure.
Okay.
So again, like I think I challenge this a little bit. I think this is a good headline, right? And that's all good. Here's another one. Again, another big number, 37 million. Okay, so these two deals alone crushed, the previous week's number, right? So
the outliers, the averages versus the medians, the outliers.
Yeah, so like in these big luxury deal, territory, like you see these things happen from time to time. One week you hit a 37 million sale, the next week you hit a few fives or whatever it is, right? And so I think there's something to just let's just keep monitoring this is my reaction, and like really make a real decision based on real data, digging deeper. I think if we dig deeper into this, I don't think those 29 contracts necessarily are all from New Yorkers running from Mamdani.
Panic.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like, and I have a number, I grew up in the Northeast. So like I have a number of friends that work in Manhattan. They make over $1 million, right? And so, and that's kind of the Mamdani threshold, right? 2% income tax on individuals earning over $1 million. That was his campaign promise, right? And so, and here's the thing, those friends of mine that make, over that $1 million target, they're not leaving because their job is there.
Well, right.
They have to work. And so like, and I've had a number of conversations. You and I talked about this before. It was like, get on a phone with a seller or a buyer from that wants to relocate in New York. And then they're telling me how they can't move because their business is there. And so it's like, I'm just so confused at what that means. Like that's an emotional overreaction maybe. So, do I think this helps motivate people to move to South Florida? Without question, right? Do I think that 20 out of the 29 contracts, there's a handful of New Yorkers? Probably, but therein lies the speculation. Like we don't know that stat, right? So I think there's questions. They say local agents report 50% more inquiries and 75% more luxury listing views from New Yorkers since the primary. So maybe this is a valid comment, right? I think this is all helps South Florida, and I'm pro helping South Florida. So do your thing, Mamdani, if you want.
You're like, yay, socialism. Come on down if you don't want it.
Yeah. I love this here. Palm Beach County's agencies launched Times Square billboards and mailed 500 relocation packets to NYC firms to capitalize on the surge. So whatever, we're trying to take advantage of the moment. I get it. So that's all good. Where was I going to show you? Yeah. So these two pending deals were massive deals, just massive deals that kind of trumped the previous week. What I found interesting here, this is what I was going to share, was this. This is this right here. If you read it, it's New Yorkers' population started to decline in 2017 and then plummeted during the pandemic, nearly half 500,000 residents between April 2020 and 2022, July 2022. Yeah. So, and you can see it here on the graph, right? It's just like net population change. 21, obviously bananas. But this was happening in 2017, well before. Now we have this spike, which is interesting. So is there reverse migration? Maybe there's some of that, right? There's probably some people that just left and, didn't have like this permanent residence down here, and they came, and then they went back, right? When things
You just try it on, like it's like trying on a pair of shoes, I'm gonna walk around in them a little bit here, see how it feels, and it's not, it's not for everybody.
Yeah. And what's funny too? I would just flag this too. I thought this was interesting. If you look at, Mamdani's like goal of taxing people over $1 million, really in New York, $1 million is really like $500,000, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, after taxes, really, it's like it's really if you look at it from the rest of the country, it's like, hey, he's taxing people over $500,000, which again, in New York, it costs a lot to live, it costs a lot to eat, all these things. Yes. So when you make $500,000, you really probably not. It's not like making $500,000 in, I don't know, even South Florida. It's not like making $500,000 in Orlando or Atlanta, So I think there's that's a little questionable about like, that target. Like, are you really taxing the rich? No, you're taxing the people that are grinding and working their ass off in the city, day in and day out, to make an income. So, but again, those people kind of can't leave. If you're making like $1 to $2 million a year in the city, you're probably very attached to the career you're in, and you're there because you have the career opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, again, I just find it hard to consider leaving. If you're like a remote business owner, then your residence isn't in New York, and you probably your primary residence probably already was relocated, Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, you can't let the facts get in the way of a good story. So,
amen.
All right. All right. So let's talk about a Canadian manufacturer who is choosing Boca Raton for its U.S. headquarters and factory. You may have heard of them, maybe you haven't. Essential Organic Mattress, which opened its first U.S. factory and U.S. headquarters in Boca Raton. The company purchased a 17,000 square foot industrial building at 6510 West Rogers Circle for just over $5.5 million. The site includes offices, showroom, and a manufacturing plant that can produce up to 1,000 mattresses a day. That's a lot of mattresses. Boca's facility will employ 22 people, combining relocated staff and local hires. So we were talking about a week or two ago about, are the Canadians, are they too scared to come back? Well, Essential Organic Mattress is not afraid to come down to Boca.
Amen. Come on, Canadians, come back.
Yeah.
Come back.
Mattresses a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not just that, they're Montreal based, so they're bringing a little more cultural flavor, getting some French mixed in there with the, Latino and everything else that happens here. Yeah. And the melting big pot. Salad bowl that is South Florida.
Yeah. This is the melting pot.
Yeah.
And again, this is like, I feel like this, like the story is like basic, but it's like just good to reinforce, hey, again, there's like manufacturing happening in South Florida. There's things being made, right?
That's a good point.
This isn't just, come vacation here. There's real industry, and there's more and more real industry arriving every single day. So.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the manufacturing, you hit it right on the head. It's like, that's a problem in the U.S. in general. That's been one of the selling points of the current, president, and trying to bring those jobs back to America since, they've been made in Asia for, God, I feel like most of our lifetime.
Right.
Yeah. So no, that's a really good point.
Peter says the economic situation in Canada resembles New York City: over-regulation, over-taxation. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so, that's what I've heard.
And we've seen this in we've seen this when we work with certain clients relocating from Canada. A lot of the clients that have come recently, Peter, have been business owners that have been able to relocate their business out of Canada. Maybe they're like doing something tech wise. Maybe like one of our clients was a web developer and he relocated all his web development stuff south, and now he lives here. Another guy was a big real estate guy, and he was gradually figuring out how to get citizenship and come here. And I think he was, investing quite a bit in the US in order to get that type of visa or that type of citizenship. So that's what we're seeing more of. And I think New York it's an easy move from New York to Florida on some level. If you already were there, if you were already like getting taxed 50% or whatever the number is in total, you probably were already like, man, why am I not in Florida, or why am I not in Texas, or why am I not in
Arizona? I think,
substantially less, less difficult to operate in. So, yeah. And then we were talking about other recent manufacturing and industrial expansion in Palm Beach County. We got Gummy Works. We brought them up before, right? Yeah. And then there was another engineering. So Gummy Works has 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility for gummy supplements and candies, just for context, huge. And that's in West Palm, and they relocated from Mass. And then you had this engineering and industrial component company that moved to Delray Beach. I don't even know how to pronounce their name, so we're not going to do it unless John wants to take a stab at it.
No, I was just looking at Gummy Works location. I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is, just west of the airport.
Yeah. And then so this company, 200 square feet, North American headquarters in Delray, expected to add 400 skilled jobs. And the company was originally from Switzerland. So,
that's
we're getting this.
Interesting. Yeah. Switzerland. When the hell why would you leave Switzerland? It's gorgeous. I mean, it gets cold. In fact, fun fact, Larry, one of my college teammates was born and raised I don't know, he grew up in Boca. He lives in Switzerland now.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. I've never been.
Coming full circle. I haven't either. I've just seen like random stuff he posts, and other friends have made a trip. I mean, it looks amazing.
Yeah, yeah. But the weather's way better here.
No, so, I mean, I won't lie to you. If I never saw snow again, I could care less. But that's just me.
That's me too. And
yeah, I'm good. All right. Who's also good? Stephen Ross. Not necessarily as the owner of the Miami Dolphins, but he does good business. And lo and behold, Related Group is added again alongside 13th Floor as they plan to replace Aventura apartments with condos. Shocking. If there is waterfront to be had in South Florida, you can be sure condos are coming for you one way or the other. Back in January, they paid $82.5 million for the Arium Lincoln Point Apartments. If you're familiar with Aventura, 17900 Northeast 31st Court, replacing the 1991 rental complex with 2 condo towers, either 31 or 32 stories tall, depending on the final plans. That's big.
Big.
That's 32 stories. Jeez.
They're not messing around. I'm trying to pull up actually the location so I can share it with everyone. But this is what they're supposed to look like while I'm trying to figure out where the heck this thing is. I mean, that's just, that's pretty cool. I'll give them that. It almost feels like, there's so many big buildings right in that little corridor there. It's like you're kind of cruising on the Intercoastal around like massive buildings and a lot of green space in the proposal. I like that.
Yeah.
$82.5 million, as you mentioned.
Right.
Like,
that's
it. And it's a big piece of property. So it makes sense. Yeah. 51,000 square feet of amenities, 409 condos. Yeah.
Yeah. It almost feels like, to a certain extent, like, is Related the only game in town that has enough capital to invest in these kinds of projects now? I mean, I just feel like they headline all of these.
Yeah, they headline, but they're partnering. So like 13th Floor. So like these guys are always they're always diversifying their risk in certain deals. So I think I think there's probably, Miami's pretty competitive. There's a lot going on. You got Ken Griffin playing around down there, big billionaire, right? He just proposed a big project. Oh, I don't know if we'll probably talk about it next week, but tallest building in Florida. He just proposed. And so like, yeah, you got guys, running around here, or companies, big firms running around here. But yeah, related is rocking. Related is rocking. That's for sure.
It's like everywhere. I mean, we talk about Pompano, obviously with West Palm. I just feel like it's like a checklist of every single city along Palm Beach and Broward County, that's on the water. It's like, check. All right, we're building here. Check. All right, we're going here. I mean, man, it's like they're on a mission.
Well, I think it's more like, hey, people keep showing up to buy these things at prices that really make us money. and I think what you have here is you have the unique feature that you have so many international buyers running around, right? And I think we talked about this before, where it's like, hey, a good portion of these condo sales come from international buyers. So this is like the weird part of the Florida market where it's like, where are all these guys coming from? Are they going to keep coming? And what if they all stop? What's going to happen to this like luxury condo market? And again, it also feels like there's a level of speculation in these condos, right? Where
that's what I was wondering. Where
people are buying these things thinking they're going to crush it on the pre-sale front. So I just want to flag I was this for like everyone, and we'll see if this statement rings true, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. But I've been watching these buildings go up that Related has, and they're selling. And then these guys afterwards, after they're done, or right as they're done, a lot of them go back on the market, right? A lot of the buyers.
I think we've talked about this. Yeah.
Right. And we were at the W in Pompano, and they were saying, hey, this is where we think things trade. And they were claiming like, hey, this thing's pre-sold, this thing, they're kind of comparing comps with me. And like, I just quickly pulled it up because I had looked at it before I came, and I was just like, yeah, you're saying those numbers, but I'm looking at 30 active listings in said other building that we're comping. And like, I don't know, 30 active listings to me feels like kind of heavy. I know there's like a couple hundred, units or more in these other buildings, but like, I don't know, like 15% of the building for sale feels a little much for me. And again, it doesn't feel like they're moving, which is the other thing. Once these speculators have tried to resell recently. And so I know specifically clients that are getting jammed on this. They paid X and they think they're going to make $1 million or $500,000, and I don't think they're going to make any of it. So we've helped buyers buy stuff at below pre-sale prices in some cases. So let's just flag that for the future, John. We'll put that on record that I have my concerns about this luxury condo market. At some point, the party is going to end. Right. I'm pro build these big buildings. I think they're cool. Oh, yeah. I think they're making the community just like more updated. Get rid of these 1960s, 70s buildings. They're a little.
It's a facelift for like the whole area. Really,
they're a little depressing, right, to be in. And these buildings are just epic, and they're super cool. So like, I'm pro get this done, build these things, but I have a feeling this demand profile that they've been underwriting isn't going to last forever. But hey, these guys are developers. This is what they do. They speculate. This is their game. They take this kind of risk. And over the past like 7 years, they haven't had the risk profile was different. I think the risk profile is higher now. So.
Okay. Well, it's funny we talk about foreign investors, because the next story here is about how new laws are reshaping Chinese investments in Florida real estate. Obviously, like so many other foreign countries that have, buyers coming to South Florida, Chinese interest in South Florida real estate is skyrocketing, but new laws are making it harder for them to buy. So here's how the legal battles and policy shifts are reshaping the market. If we rewind to 2023, we had Florida passing Senate Bill 264, which prohibited China from buying most residential properties, all land near military bases, and agricultural land, which that's a lot of South Florida.
We did some on our other channel, Real Estate Market Watch. We did some videos on this, right?
But the place right before a lot of these laws went into effect, it was in New Hampshire. Yeah. China bought it made it one of the, I guess, most valuable towns because of the level of interest from China buying up like all the land there.
which is
I'm
super
drawing
weird.
a blank on the name. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the city now. But yeah,
And they
it's in
bought
New
like
Hampshire.
large properties, industrial stuff. They would
Yeah.
just, and it just became this very awkward experience where there's like all these Chinese, right, environment, not Chinese people, but like just Chinese investors, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It was just this weird thing, or like, what's going on next? What's going on these properties? Like, why do they want these? What are they going to do with them? Right? It was just this weird dynamic. And so, yeah, we were talking about that. So this law is meant to, prohibit or prevent some things like this happening, right? So
we don't end up with, Chinese spy balloons being built over these said South Florida properties. I mean, who knows? But
right, exactly. This
I just find it funny that, I feel like we're one of the only countries that we can allow our rivals and adversaries to buy whatever here, but we sure as hell aren't allowed to buy anything over there. It's like, why are we so nice to everybody?
Yeah. It is kind of unique, right? So, let's talk about this. So this is like my whole thing. So there were only narrow exceptions, like one single residence up to 2 acres, and it had to be at least 5 miles from military installations. So this is an exception. So technically, if you're Chinese, per this document, the one single residence up to 2 acres, and it had to be at least 5 miles from military installations. This immediately created confusion for buyers, developers, and agents who suddenly had to verify person's citizenship, visa type, and domicile, something real estate professionals had never dealt with before. Yeah, this was kind of weird. I actually had been working with some Chinese citizens, and we were talking about this. So what happened here? In 2024, the temporary pause sparks a buying rush. In February 2024, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued a temporary injunction, stopping Florida from enforcing the law until the legal challenge was reviewed. So the legal challenge, a temporary injunction was issued because the court believed Florida's foreign ownership law might violate federal rules that already govern foreign real estate purchases. The Chinese plaintiff argued that the law conflicted with federal authorities, discriminated against them based on nationality, and denied them fair treatment under the Constitution. Yep. So I remember when this went in. So 2 of them showed they would be harmed immediately if the law was enforced, since it could block their home purchases. The judges decided it was safer to pause the law of those buyers for those buyers until the case could be fully reviewed. The pause didn't cancel the law, but it created a brief opening where some Chinese buyers felt they had the chance to purchase property in Florida. During this period, Chinese interest in South Florida real estate surged, right? So that's kind of interesting. We didn't have as much of that in this like Palm Beach County market, but Miami is again very international. Mm-hmm. China jumped to the number one spot for international web searches. How interesting. Many Chinese buyers treated the pause as a last chance window, so they kind of flooded the market. And then mid-24-25, Chinese demand. During the window, interest from Chinese citizens didn't just increase online. Agents reported more calls, et cetera, et cetera. At the time, the U.S. housing market saw foreign buyer activity rise for the first time in 8 years. Foreign buyers purchased $56 billion worth of U.S. homes between April 24 and March of 25. Florida captured 21% of all international purchases, number one in the country for 16 years straight. But that's common, right? Like we're usually, again, this is something unique about Florida that everyone doesn't appreciate. We are number one in the country for 16 years straight for international purchases. And in this case, 21%. It's kind of bananas.
Well, that timing is very interesting. That was right after the housing market crash, was it not?
Well, this is 2025, but yeah, exactly. Right after or at the housing market crash, we've been open for international buyers for 16 years straight. Probably there was probably some wild cards going on there. Mm-hmm. So this is interesting. So now fast forward present day, November 2025, the court reinstates the restrictions On November 4th of 2025, the 11th Circuit Court issued its final decision. SB 264 is valid and enforceable. All right, DeSantis got a W on that one, right? Chinese citizen domicile in China are once again restricted from buying property in Florida. This ruling triggered several new challenges, of course. The problems Chinese buyers now face. Most Chinese nationals can no longer buy Florida property at all. The law is based on domicile, which is difficult to prove or disprove. Buyers must now show citizenship, visa type, U.S. residency documents, domicile history. Many buyers fear being denied at closing, even after going under contract. I get that because I still don't even entirely feel comfortable with this process, right? Properties purchased by Chinese citizens must be registered with the state, adding constant reporting requirements. The 5-mile restriction around military bases eliminate large parts of the state map. Corporate and trust structures may not solve the issues if they trace back to a restricted individual. So this is kind of a super gray area for everyone right now. Because if you called me and as a Chinese citizen, and this has happened, like, hey, I want to buy, can we do this? And I've talked to title on this, like, hey, can these guys buy? And the answer was like, yeah, sure. Right. It was just this weird sure thing. And it's like, they just have to register this thing. Right. Because most of what we do is like resi stuff. Right. So it's like in that window of like that gray area, but it's confusing. It's confusing on what needs to be done here. And I would make a bet this affects, purchases from these restricted countries quite a bit.
My question too, I'd imagine in most cases with Chinese nationals buying in Florida, it's just as investments. I mean, are they trying to leave?
Well, I get it too. Like, it's okay. Like, on some level, it's like, hey, if you're like trying to get citizenship, et cetera, well, then you probably can buy at some point, So I don't know. It's tough. This isn't easy. So,
okay. Well, all right. So
let's talk about Tesla.
Yes, Tesla. Man, we haven't talked about Tesla in a while. Not since swastikas were being spray painted on Cybertrucks and Elon was bringing down the end of the United States and so on and so forth. But here we are with Tesla clearing a major hurdle in Arizona and named a few other U.S. cities for its Robotaxi rollout. Florida is on the list, and the shift towards autonomous transportation could reshape mobility across the state. Before we go any deeper into that, I know we talked about a similar Robotaxi service being available in Boca around Meisner Park. I haven't seen it. Have you?
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. I haven't been around there much lately, but I was like, did that actually end up happening?
Yes. So the answer is yes. I saw it. It's running around. I don't know if they were allowing people in it when I saw it, because I think it was like doing the test runs, right? You know what I mean?
Like, no, it's just for show. We don't actually let anyone use it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was just driving around, like kind of prepping to, before it, making sure it doesn't hit people and stuff.
Well, right. I was going to say,
with
which
people
would be a very Florida thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's rocking. Again, that's completely autonomous in the sense that it follows, there's no driver in it, and it's kind of just driving around a specific area.
Right. It was like a loop by like FAU and Meisner Park or something. I
don't even think it goes to FAU. I think it might. Maybe they're expanding there, whatever. Yeah. So this is kind of cool test. Like, you just literally jump in and it drives. It'll be good for these downtowns if it like really can cruise around and do that. I mean, that would be awesome. Then I won't have to pick my fiance up from Meisner Park, which we live like 2 minutes away from, at like 10 p.m. Just because she calls with her friend, hey, we just left the Tequila Fest, right? And it's like, I maybe just jump in the Robotaxi and just come home,
right? There's going to be some. There's going to be some accidents left behind in some of those things, then like that's already going to happen.
Oh yeah,
how they keep tabs, like who's going to cover, the cleaning bills and stuff for the interior when they got to get it all cleaned up.
There's vomit everywhere in these things.
It's going to happen. I mean, I haven't even been out west with the ones in Southern California and some of that. I'm sure it's got to go on pretty regularly. But In any case, Tesla receiving statewide approval in Arizona, its third approved state after Texas and California. So the company identified Miami, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Dallas, and Houston for its self-driving ride-hailing network during its annual shareholder meeting last week.
Yep.
Yeah, good news
And-
is Florida
and so-
already allows fully driverless vehicles on public roads. Yeah, that no surprise there. Yeah. I'm sure I've seen them. It's usually somebody distracted on their phone and running me off the road, or God knows what else.
There's a lot of driverless vehicles on the road right now.
Yeah.
So
man.
this is interesting. So Waymo and Amazon, Zoox, or however you say it,
That's a new one. I haven't seen Zoox.
Or are actively testing autonomous vehicles in Florida right now. So we get, this is coming, guys. This is happening.
I'm ready for it. I'm done. I'm tired of driving. Screw it.
Same. I don't need.
Yeah, you do more multitasking than I do. It's like, it's just the way society has evolved, and we're doing so many damn things at one time. It makes sense. I really think it's time.
It'll be interesting to see how parking situations change in downtown markets.
Yes, they won't need as much as if they wouldn't build it anyway. That's a great point.
So it's hey, if everybody's going to downtown and they're just using these autonomous things that just pick up and drop off everywhere, it's we don't need all this parking. Maybe. So yeah. What does this say here? As AVs scale nationwide, Florida's infrastructure growth patterns and transportation systems could change significantly. Exactly. Yep. So that's the big piece. Tesla is rapidly expanding its Robotaxi program after launching limited service in Texas, as you just mentioned. Yep. And so they're pushing hard here. This is cool. Florida will likely. I think Florida has a good. If you've been to other parts of the country, like where I grew up in New Jersey, there was potholes everywhere. You really had
Atlanta
to be really sharp.
The worst when I saw,
yeah, right. So
terrible.
I would argue Florida has pretty good road systems, right? Which I think make it more interesting. You have a lot crazier people on the road, maybe, but but just because there's every human from all over the world trying to drive based on their their training or lack thereof training. Here in South Florida, but on the other hand, I think the infrastructure is pretty good, so I think Florida is a good choice. Plus, the AIs need to learn, right? And Florida will put them to the test. Florida drivers will put you to the test, right? So,
if that thing can learn to survive in Florida, it can survive anywhere.
Anywhere, baby, anywhere. so that's it. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So
Tesla continues seeking regulatory steps in Florida. No launch date is set. Waymo began Florida testing in 2025 with public rides expected in 2026. So next year we could have people running around in Waymos or however you say it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
here's a question, and I asked this because you drive a Tesla. I mean, as the software updates, does your car already have some sort of autonomous feature? Because I see random, social media posts and things. I mean, what does it do now?
So I mean, basically, my car's not the newest Tesla version, but it gets updated, obviously.
Right. That's why I asked.
But still, it's. So I just have to kind of make sure my hands are always on the wheel, and if they're always on the wheel, it'll drive for you.
Really?
Completely. It'll take me from my house to somebody else's house. Pretty much no problem. I use it a lot. And it's gotten from the time I bought it and bought a Tesla in 2019 to today, substantially better, way better. It's improving. There's no question. And I think I've listened to Elon Musk say this: to get real autonomous vehicles really driving on the road, you really need to solve the general AI salute problem, which is basically an AI that can basically act and operate like us, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so there's probably a lot more work to be done there, but now it seems like this thing's accelerating quite a bit, right? And so I think we got a few more years, at least maybe 5 more years before you're really this is ubiquitous. But I think or like you can buy a car and it's like, yeah, you don't even, it's going to drive for you, and you don't have to like hold the wheel guarantee, like, cause that's what it makes you do. It'll yell.
I was going to say, isn't it sad that like even that I'm like, God, I bet there's people who won't even hold the wheel. Like, do you have to be touching it, or like I'm picturing somebody with their forearms on the wheel, like texting. It's like, as long as it senses some sort of physical contact on it.
So now the new Teslas, it looks at you, the camera looks at you, and if your eyes are looking down and not on the road, it knows and it pulls you out, and like it makes alarms and stuff. Yep. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Florida City's best prepared for autonomous vehicles. Jacksonville. Yeah. Runs the Navy or whatever autonomous shuttle system on a 3.5 mile downtown route, the first of its kind in U.S. public transit. Okay. Backed by a private 5G network integrated into official city transportation plans. Orlando. I can see Orlando being,
that was actually that was the one I would have thought of. Hell, I hated driving in Orlando, but I was thinking like Disney World and, right around there.
Yeah, so they're calling these out because there's literally companies operating in the area. So Orlando, home to SunTrax, a 475-acre dedicated AV and connected vehicle testing facility. Wow, that's kind of neat. So they got a facility where they're running tests all the time. Miami, chosen by Tesla, Waymo, and Zoox for AV rollout and testing due to dense demand, tourism, and AV-friendly state laws. Expected to be an early commercial Robotaxi market. So Miami's going to be hot. And we got Boca Raton here launching an autonomous MICA shuttle system service. This is the one we talked about, servicing downtown Meisner Park. And so yeah, they're working on that. It sounds like I can see this like being a big deal in Miami, right? And kind of being the thing to do in Miami, right? Like, yeah, you fly into Miami, you got to
everything's a flex.
Drive these things around, like get in these cars. You got to do that at least once. And then they say Tampa hosts one of the nation's largest connected vehicle pilot programs through THEA, giving the region advanced V2.1 vehicle infrastructure readiness, well positioned for AV deployments. Yeah, I mean, sounds like Florida's kind of on it and going after it, which I'm supportive of. Should be cool.
Well, it's again when I was talking about some of the corporate restrictions or lack thereof in Florida in general, I just feel like Florida is so much more open to trying new things. So I mean, because there's just so little red tape. I mean, granted, there are regulations and things for a reason, but it's kind of like, well, you're coming to Florida, it's sort of like do so at your own risk.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
I'm okay with this. Also, we have a 7 Park Residences breaking ground in Hallandale Beach, $70 million condo project. It's also one of the most affordable new buildings coming to Broward County. I feel like have we talked about 7 Park Residences? I feel like we have.
We may have before. This is what it looks like. I honestly can't remember, which is why
I know. I mean, you look at them all day, every day. I'm sure they probably all look the same to a certain extent. $70
million, 8-story building, 124 units, starting at $375,000 plus 4,500 square feet of retail in the front. So this is like a affordable number, $375,000. Obviously, that's the starting price, and we'll probably quickly go up from there. I feel like this thing is going to sell pretty quickly. At $375,000 is kind of like, I mean, there's a lot of condos that are not nice for $250,000, right? I can see this being a price point that's real interesting. And completion is expected in 2027, with 40% of the units already pre-sold. So, by the way, when you hit 40% in Florida, typically that's the threshold where the lender gives you the money, and that's how it works. Lender gives you the money, you hit 40% or somewhere around that number, and then you can start construction. So these guys are going after it probably right now. And this is what's also interesting. The building allows short-term rentals, attracting both local buyers and international investors. That'll be an interesting one. That's not super common here for people who aren't from the area. Buying a Airbnb condo is not really a thing, right? So it's not a thing. Like most condo buildings and associations will not allow short-term rentals like that. They got to approve the tenant. That usually takes 20 to 30 days, right? These things don't really like kind of work together for short-term rentals. Plus, they usually have restrictions on how many times a year you can rent, how short of a rental period it can be. There's all these things. So, like, usually what we just say is if you're looking to, there's only a select few buildings that really allow this. Miami has a few more, and there's a few all over the place. The W in Pompano is going to be something like that, right? The W residences, we're right in downtown Pompano, so that'll be a unique one. This one will be unique as well, which will be interesting.
Did the rise of businesses like, Airbnb, national brands making, the short-term rental service easier, did that play a large part in curbing short-term rentals in a lot of these buildings? I mean, was it, or has it always been a case of buildings trying to deter from having short-term rental opportunities? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is like, when it rolled out, people probably got away with it for a few minutes, and then the HOAs and the cities quickly like no, we got to enforce our rules / laws. That's that, right? And so like they just like started. There's people that would just like put people in units, and then the HOA would finally find out, and then then they'd get fined or they'd have restrictions. It's not not simple. So yeah,
okay,
yeah. So that's what I would say to that. It's not a thing. Anybody who thinks they're gonna like get around the HOA or condo association,
not in Florida. God, no.
God, and the consequence of getting caught on that stuff in an association, like, listen, you gotta like deal with these people if you ever rent it again or if you ever sell it, and they're just gonna slow roll the whole freaking thing, man. And so they're just gonna make your life so painful that
you speak like someone who's had to deal with this.
Yeah, we've had clients that were just basically the condo was like, yeah, they tried some funny shit, so like we're just not going to allow them to do this. And then they were like, but that's illegal, and they were like, sue us. And then everybody was like, all right, we're not going to sue, we're just going to deal with it, right? And so it was just like that kind of like chicken game where it's
just
like,
right. I mean, time's on their side. They're not going anywhere.
They don't care. And like, yeah, maybe they would just eventually do it if they actually got sued, because then the attorney would send the letter. They'd have to spend a few $1,000s, and maybe they'd eventually do it. But until then, you lost the tenant already because it took 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to respond, right? And now they want to sue for, hey, you made me lose my tenant. Well, go ahead, do that, right? And so like there's just like this mess of like, and then by the way, again, you're living with these people. Yeah. Forget you're living with them, not maybe physically because you're going to rent the place out,
but you're going to see them. Yeah,
you got to deal with these people. They're all walking around. They're talking to your other tenants. They're going to tell the tenant that just moved in how much of a jerk you are. It's just like all bad. It's all bad. So I tell this to investors and everyone. I give this speech probably once or twice a week with people who call me on this stuff. Just like, don't do it. You want to do an Airbnb? Go on the Airbnb blog sites, figure out what cities are best, read all the nightmare stories from each city and what happened. And then let's talk, let's pick your strategy. Let's remove HOAs from the condo associations from the conversation completely. And then let's go. Let's just go. Right. And then let's do like very strict criteria to get it done. And once you do that, then like you see what's available and you're like, oh man, things aren't cheap. This isn't easy to do. And then everybody wonders why. It's like, hey, yeah, the Airbnb thing is like not super easy in South Florida, to pull off. Yeah. But anyway, that went down a rant.
No, that's cool interesting. Building. I was just curious. I mean, I know you deal with a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So let's see. This developer, Kedema Developers, is building an 8-story condo on a 1-acre site with 124 units, as we talked about. Unit sizes run from 500-foot studios to 1,645 square feet, 3-bedroom units. Pretty cool. And as I was showing you, this is like kind of a cool, just like good looking thing. Like nice building. This will be good long term. The developer expects about 30,000 square feet of amenities, including pools, cabanas, kind of what we're seeing here, right on this, which is kind of nice. So, this is neat, and this is kind of like following this like development spree in the Hallandale market, right? There's the Oasis Hallandale, the residents at Shell Bay, the Mandarin, Hallandale Beach residences. Like there's like a lot going on here, and it's quite interesting. In fact, my team on the investment side, we're looking at a bunch of property there, and we're pretty optimistic about the future of Hallandale and what that's going to look like. We're working with another developer right now that's going to do, I think, 6 single-family homes in the area. There's a lot popping off there, and I think that area has got good trajectory long term, good density. Close to Fort Lauderdale International Airport, close to Miami International Airport. Good culture, cool boardwalks and beaches, right? Like all cool stuff. So. But I think I could probably optimistically say that about most South Florida markets, right? Or cities. So, yeah. But, yep, that's it. Let's call it.
All right, man. On behalf of Larry Mastropieri, broker, owner of the Mastropieri Group, I'm John Laws of Discover South Florida. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.